increasingly in the AI world, there's a realization that empathy is really important. I actually think that's one of the big unlocks.
Reckitt is the global organization behind many of the health and hygiene products used by millions of consumers every day. In recent years, it has embarked on a bold transformation to simplify the business, focus on core power brands, and embed AI at the heart of its Fuel for Growth strategy. At the center of that is CEO of Reckitt, Kris Licht, an AI pioneer who has taken a deliberate approach to how AI can truly create value. So, how did he lead his organization on its AI journey to cut innovation cycles and scale across the business? Join me to find out. Kris, it's great to see you. You've been the CEO for Reckitt for a number of years now, and you have been transforming the company with the spirit to make it a simpler and sharper company. And one of the elements of your program that you embarked on is called Fuel for Growth. Tell us a bit more about what's behind that.
Well, we have an opportunity to grow faster and manage our cost base in a way that creates a lot more value than we have historically done. Simpler and sharper is a way we talk about the company that we want. We want a simple company that focuses on the things that matter most, and a sharper company where we don't have any real waste, where we don't have bureaucracy or complexity that doesn't add value. And that's our Fuel for Growth program, which really is what's allowing us to invest a lot more in top-line growth.
At some point, you made the decision that AI is going to be a central part of that program. When was that point, and what triggered that?
Well, we all read the newspapers and I think heard about ChatGPT being released. I think that was in the late fall of 22. I was actually not CEO at that time, but I was running our global health business. And so I took my leadership team of that global health business to San Francisco, and we spent a week immersing ourselves, understanding this new technology. What can it do? What might be the art of the possible down the line? And that was a really pivotal moment. It's really important that everyone is engaged in this journey.
That's exactly the question that I wanted to ask you. I mean, you made the decision after seeing, okay, this is going to be a transformational technology and it will impact how you do business, right? But there are still many different ways you can set this up. How you frame the program, what functional focus you put, how much experimentation you allow, how rapidly you want to scale. And tell us a bit more about the choices you made on those fronts.
Yeah, I think the first choice was we're going to try to go fast. We're going to try, and if we fail a little bit along the way, that's okay. We're going to try to have a controlled process where we can make these choices and balance risk and benefit. But I think the first decision we made is this is one of the things that we should go fast on. We don't have time to work on everything, but we chose that this is one where we were going to make real investments, spend real time, get our teams immersed in it. The second thing that we chose, and I'm really happy that that was the case, because I think this is maybe the most important choice that we made so far, was to not go buy whatever people were selling us. What we decided to do was take more of a first principles approach to this and say, this is so powerful that we actually want this to change the way our whole organization works. This is a profoundly different way of working, and we have to rewire work. And that was the choice we made. So actually, the first thing we do now when we deploy these tools is somewhat counterintuitive. We use, good old time and motion studies, and we actually map the work in a given domain, in a function, in an area. And we just ask the question, what are our people doing? What do they actually spend time on? There's lots of transactional work, document creation, repetitive tasks, things that these tools are perfect for. And so instead of buying something that has the appearance of being ready-made, we took a little bit more time to do this more profound exercise and understand where to deploy the tools.
What I find interesting, Kris, is you made the choice to go into one of the most differentiating and value-adding functions of a company like Reckitt, which is marketing.
Yes.
You could have said, oh, we experiment in support process 1 and support process 2 and support
Yes.
process 3. That's all fine.
Yeah.
You might get some good productivity gain, but you made the choice to go right into the heart of what makes you win
We did.
as a firm.
Yes.
So what drove that choice?
Just to build on your point, actually, the second domain was R&D,
Yeah.
which is also equally important from a standpoint of innovation. We chose that because we thought these tools would change the game on what good looks like and what excellence requires. And so that's why we chose it. It might be counterintuitive, but it turned out to be a very good choice. And I think in a lot of ways, because we have had success in these domains, we've also had some failures, but we've had successes in these domains, that has then proven to the entire organization, well, if we can do it in marketing and R&D, then surely we can also do it in other areas.
You just mentioned failures. One of the things I observe in my own company, but also at many of our clients, is you start these programs and people say, yeah, we tolerate failure, and there will be some of that. How did that feel at Reckitt, and how did you evolve culture around that?
I think one of the things that I had to do in particular was make sure that everyone was focused on the long term. So even if we have one element of a use case that failed or one piece of the investment that didn't really generate a big return, as long as we in aggregate were moving forward and we were learning a lot and we were seeing successes in other places, then we were on the right path. And they have turned into true believers.
You said something earlier, which is, while you are off to a very impressive start, by no means do you feel you have mission accomplished. And
No.
I think all of us are realizing, oh, wow, the technology keeps advancing. Every new release is yet another plethora of opportunity of what you can do, etc. How do you keep the organization moving, given that we are still probably only in the early part of the S-curve of the technology?
I think our whole top team is very engaged. I mean, the executives that have deployed this in their functions, they own it. And their teams own it because they co-created the solution. So today, I think it's more a question of how do we think about talent, and how do we think about what capabilities we need inside the company. We have built teams that work only on this now, and they've gotten pretty good. They've done a lot of foundational work. You know, when we started in marketing, we didn't know everything, and we had to learn a lot. But that learning now is fueling a faster pace. We don't have to relearn a lot of the things about technology foundations, data architecture, all that. Like, that work is actually now benefiting us in the waves of expansion that we're running now through the company.
Well, I think we are all learning that technology is not the constraining factor.
Right.
The models work largely.
Yeah.
And better with every new release. They get more powerful.
Yes.
And then the big question is, how does your organization actually embrace them? And how do you transform the various functions where you deploy them? And I agree with you 100%. This started as a technology thing.
Yes.
It's now a big change management and transformation thing. And I observe exactly the same with so many of the clients that we serve. So
one of the things that we have to figure out is, how do we create mastery in our more junior people? Because the whole model for, not just for our industry, but the model was, you do a lot of grunt work. And so it's a question of what is now these better career paths that we can create, where actually marketers and all people in our company learn more about the tool and how to maximize it, and maybe less grunt work along the way, but yet still develop functional mastery. And I don't think we've actually fully cracked that.
It's so interesting, because if you read the general coverage in the media, it's all about the quantitative question, what AI will do to jobs. How many bankers are you going to need? How many software engineers? How many marketeers? How many lawyers? How many consultants? Whatever business you're in, right?
Yeah.
I think there's way too little talk about the qualitative question. How do you actually train the talent of the future that they are great in what they do? And I believe that many companies are now starting to realize, I need to manage for numbers, but ultimately I do need to manage for quality and for proficiency and for mastery.
We're sure about the productivity impact. And we're also sure that work gets better. It just gets more consistent. It's just more high quality output. I think many jobs do get better just because we're taking the most sort of repetitive, maybe least interesting, least value added elements increasingly out of the work. But how do we build the mastery? How do we enrich? And how do we redeploy so that we can harness the power of these tools?
So, Kris, we are now all heading into this future where humans and machines or tools work hand in hand. And we all talk about hybrid workforce and what that will entail. Um, what does that mean for you, and how do you tackle that at Reckitt?
One of the things that I've learned is that actually increasingly in the AI world, there's a realization that empathy is really important. I actually think that's one of the big unlocks because if you have that, you realize that there will be failures in the journey. You'll start to understand why are we failing or why are we falling short, and you sort of give a little space to make the model better and learn about that and interact with it more productively. Maybe a little bit less disappointed if it doesn't do exactly what we expect the first time.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't think that the era we are in, or that we are starting to evolve in front of us, is the end of the value of human labor. In fact, there are elements such as empathy, such as judgment, such as an ability to bring people along and also get the change management done.
Yeah.
I think they are going to be in high demand, and they're going to be highly differentiating. And I'm not worried about the future of human work. I think it will be highly valuable, but it will be very different
It'll be
than what
different.
it used to be. So Reckitt was a true pioneer when it comes to AI. You've been at the forefront of many things. Now, Kris, you get asked by peers and friends, hey, what can we learn from what you have been through? What are your biggest learnings, and what advice do you give?
I'm sure there's 50 different ways that people could do this. But think about the ultimate outcome, the ultimate impact that you're after, and then sort of work backwards from that and say, what work do I need to do? What analytical work, what design work, what do I need to do to actually extract that value? And I think the purchase of technology should come way down the line. That's there, and there's lots of people that have amazing products and solutions, but having a really profound conversation about how are you trying to change your company is the first step.
Kris, what has helped you as CEO be successful on this journey and be a true pioneer?
I remember a session I was at. It was a Microsoft session hosted about a partnership that they have with universities, and they were talking about discovery or simulation of new compounds that could not have been done before without these tools. Just didn't have the processing power, and now it's possible. And they were just sort of hinting at what that might mean in terms of discovering new compounds or materials, and that immediately made me extremely curious. Okay, if it can do that, what can it do to all the things that we do as a company? That curiosity, I have tapped into that sometimes along the way when things weren't going exactly the way they should be going, or we had to revisit some assumptions that we had. I go back to some of those more foundational points that I learned when I was, in learning mode, and that convinced me that this is just a very different and powerful technology, and we should find a way, even if it's hard.
Kris, it's fascinating to hear from you about the journey Reckitt has been on in terms of AI. Congratulations on being a true pioneer in your industry and across all industries. It's remarkable how far you've come. Thank you for the time, and I will closely follow where things are headed at Reckitt.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.